All right, today we've got a good friend of mine, Ian Horowitz, back on the show, and we're going to talk a little bit about our LFG Mastermind that we have coming up September 30th through October 2nd, and this show will air before that. So before we get too far into it, if you're at all interested in our event, please reach out to us. Ian, welcome to the show.
What's up, brother? Yeah, no, if you're interested, feel free to reach out. It does fill up fast, and generally speaking, we usually just invite people that we like. So if you think you can make that cut, please reach out. And you got to go through an extensive interview process with John and I. But we were just talking, and I was like, dude, send me a link, because we've talked about this before. And before I sorted it all out on the phone with you, I wanted to get all this out. Masterminds, groups in general, do they work? Do they not work? Where's Bill? Like, where's Donald Trump? Where's he doing his masterminding at? Like, where's Jeff Bezos doing it? Where's Elon Musk doing it? Like, do those guys go to these events? Like, I think that's it's an interesting topic that we're going to almost gut ourselves on of our own group. But I'd be interested to see what comes out the other end of this, really natural conversation that we were just about to have on the phone.
Yeah. Well, and I think masterminds groups, lump it all together, are relatively new, right? I was thinking, I think it was yesterday, I saw a post about a real estate developer and investor in Columbus, Ohio, that is one of the bigger ones. I think the dad is probably in his 80s, maybe older. Son is probably 60s. They own all this real estate. Crazy real estate investors. They're not going to masterminds. They've never gone to a mastermind. So this whole idea is kind of new, right? And I think there's definitely value in learning what you're trying to get into, asset class, whatever, and networking with the right people. But at some point, and I think this is why we probably started LFG, right? Is we want to be around like-minded people, because now you have a bigger team than I do, but team is we do collaborate, but it's still nice to be with other business owners too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But then it's some days it's it's a lot of work to go and travel, or it's a lot of work to go jump on a Zoom call. It's a lot of work to facilitate it. But then in the same sense, it's do you need it? Do you need, I always think about Billions. I don't know if you've ever watched that show. I didn't complete the whole series, but I watched a good bit of it at one point in my life. And, it's a big stock trading firm, and they're a hedge fund, and they had a psychologist in their office. And if they didn't have their mojo, they went down and talked to the psychologist who was on staff inside this company, and she got them all pepped up and got them to go. And it's well, is the mastermind our psychologist? Do we need this? Do I just need a psychologist on hand to be hey, I need to talk to you for 5 minutes and sort this out? Because you do need a sounding board. And I don't know if anyone follows my podcast, but recently we just talked about manifesting and journaling and working your thoughts out. So I just think it's the communication or the medium that works for you the best, that you need to explore and execute on it. And some people, it's looking within and doing it on your own. And other people, it's being around a group of people to feel the community, and that to know that oh, okay, John's got the same problems I do, or this person's in New Mexico and he's got the same exact problems and challenges that I do. And it's not just me feeling it up here in this part of the East Coast that I'm dealing with. So it's, I don't know, man. I go back and forth all the time on the mastermind thing. And is there better ways to execute on it? Because by all means, I'd hate to tell all my friends that, hey, join our mastermind, and then come to find out the best way to actually mastermind is joining a country club or joining a fishing group or whatever it is. I don't know, make up whatever you want. Maybe there's a better way to do this. And we're just I hate to say it, we're followers of what everybody else is doing. And I don't want to be that, you know what I mean? So
yeah. I don't know. Well, yeah. And I've thought about that too, is how the groups that we've been in and part of and whatever, how much of those are sounding board, right? Just we're looking for what we're looking for, and what we're putting out is the same rooms that we're in. We're not, how much are we exposing ourselves to new stuff, new ideas, bigger thoughts, stuff like that, right? For the most part, it's probably, again, like-minded individuals that probably think very similar to us. That maybe it probably pushes to a point, but maybe at some point it probably hinders us too.
Yeah, but entrepreneurship is lonely, even if you have a business partner, even if you have a big team. Like, what is it? The king who carries the crown has the heavy head, or whatever the stupid saying is, right? Like, you're at the top. Like, you have to make all these crazy decisions. You're the one that is it a yes or no on this investment? Is it a yes or no on selling it because it's a turd? I got to fire this employee. I need capital. I got to call this bank. I have these millions of dollars in loans. You're heavy as a head who wears the crown. I don't know, whatever the saying is. I'm trying to think of it. But like, you're the one making all these decisions, and you could have 1,000-person company. It's still lonely at the top. And it's funny because John and I have completely different looking companies. You're a little more one-man bandish, and let's say it this way. You have way less employees than we do. And it's probably and I have a business partner and you don't. And I bet you, and I know we connect on this, is that it's equally as lonely many of the times. And I think that's where the mastermind mindset comes in. I just think a lot of people have taken it, and we know a lot of the gurus out there. You've been a part of some masterminds that are run in that fashion. I've been a part of some masterminds that are run in that fashion, that it's really just a cash grab for them, and they're not actually extracting the value that they should be delivering and or receiving by running that. And, I don't know, man. It's just, I think there's still a lot of value to be provided by being in those rooms. I just always wonder, is that room we're in the right medium for it, or are we better off served doing an activity, being in a room full of business owners that just aren't in real estate and seeing a completely different look on the world? Like, how does all that look? And you always got a question, are you doing it right?
Yeah, as we were saying, I think we're not saying, masterminds are a bad thing. And don't do them, don't go to groups or anything like that. I think there's a time and place. I also think at some point we've talked about this plenty of times, where I think there's also an evolution of a real estate investor. And this is kind of a new thing where it's like you start doing real estate and then you have some success there. And then it's like people start reaching out. So now you start kind of a coaching program, or you start coaching small, and then it goes to that. Or maybe you're doing hard money before that, but then hard money comes in at some point, right? There's like this new evolution of a real estate investor, and involves hard money lending and involves coaching, which I get it, like grab the, opportunity when it comes up, but how much are you missing out on with the asset that you start with as a real estate investor?
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I bought some real estate, and then it's like, I'm starving for cash, so I need to figure out how to make more active income. And this is the way to do it. And it's just like this natural progression, like, oh, so-and-so coach, so I'm going to coach. But dude, that takes up a lot of your time. Like, I've been talking to one of our former members, and he has a hard money lending company, and he started coaching newbie real estate investors. He's like, I hate it, but I need the cash. And it's like, well, dude, like, what if you could just concentrate on your business and all that effort you're putting in? You could just raise the capital you need, and then, you could do more deals. And if you could do more deals, yeah, you would need to do $5 million in loans, would be a massive uphill battle for you. But like, you're bifurcating your attention. So then therefore you're taking your eye off the ball. And when you take your eye off the ball, all hell breaks loose. And if you don't have a team in place, it's hard to shift modes. And I recently saw a reel somewhere. It was like, if you're running you can't run more than one business until you have your systems and your processes set up. So like, if he was in our mastermind still, I would challenge him and say, hey man, like, I get it. Like, coaching's cool. You picked up $100,000 in 1 month, and it seems really cool. And then like, you can deploy that $1 million back into your business. But then by the time you do that, could you have just reached out to 10 people and raised $1 million? And yes, your profit would have been less, but now you have $1 million more in the till that makes you another $30,000 a year, and do the slow grind and continue just to grind on your business over and over again. And again, I think that's where like the mastermind thing comes in. And it's like, I need somebody to tell me no. You want to surround yourself with people that's saying you're dumb and that's a bad idea. And you take this with a grain of salt. That's not 100% what I'm saying, but at somewhere in your life and somewhere in your ecosystem, and if you don't have it with inside your company, you cannot be surrounded with yes men. And you need to be surrounded with someone to say, I don't know, that does not seem like a good idea. Me personally, I can't talk to my wife about business. I've tried. She tells me no. She's probably 1,000% correct, and I'm ready to murder her. Like, it's just, it causes a fight, and I don't want to do that to my relationship. And I'd rather be in a room full of like-minded individuals to tell me the same thing. Or, like I said, do you go to the country club to get that same experience? Do you go on a fishing trip to get that same experience? Do you join the Rotary Club, if they're even still a thing? Like, what is it? Where is it? Where can you gain that group of people, the group of knowledge to challenge you, to push you to the next level? Because that is the hardest thing to do in business, is to continue to grow.
Yep. Well, and I think too, related, well, back to what you said about people telling you, what you should and should not do. You can't have yes men around you. And I heard this other week, you want to be challenged, but also supported, right? And that's a really good way to look at it. You want people to challenge you, but also in a supportive way. Like, and we've heard this question of, why do you want to do more? Why do you want to make more money? Well, there should be something behind that too. Like, that shouldn't be a negative question, right? It should be more like, what drives you to want to do more, or what drives you want to make more money? What's the end goal there? It's really the question. We've heard that question in other rooms, and was kind of off-putting. But yeah, the question is, why do you want to do more? What fulfills you? What gets you up in the morning?
Well, I think the reason that question was so off-putting from other rooms was it was just an echo chamber, and people are like, I saw this person ask this guy this way, so I'm going to ask the same thing. Well, why? Okay, well, no, that's not really like what you're asking. What you should be asking is, okay, you want to do more. What does it do for you? How do you see fit? Why does that work well for you? John, why do you want to grow your portfolio from $1 million to 10 million, or 10 million to 20 million? What would that do for you or your team, right? Too many people are just like, well, why? Well, why? Well, why? And they're like, well, we're asking the challenging questions so you can truly find your true answer. But you also need to recognize, like, how to present that question. And I don't want anyone ever to feel like they have to be filtered. But in the same sense, like, you don't want to be in the echo chamber. You don't want to be in a room that's just echoing what everybody else says, and it's the gang mentality or the pack mentality of, oh, I don't know, example, I got to make $100,000 so I can quit my job. So everybody in the room just makes $100,000 so they can quit their job. But then some of the people that quit their job make $1 million at their job. Does it really make sense to only make $100,000 and live a minimalist lifestyle when you're making $1 million? Or for that person, should we all be challenging them to say, look, man, you got golden handcuffs. You need to make $5 million in your business before you can quit your job. And here's why. And here's things that we should think about to help you get to your goal and not live in this echo chamber. And I could go on and on about the question that you were asked, but I just want to bring that up, that, like, you want to be in a room that's not just an echo chamber and actually has individuals thinking on a high level. That I think that's why sometimes we're attracted to find groups outside of masterminds, because there's so many, like, like, it's almost like the Bill Belichick, like, ecosystem, like, it's all, everybody came from Bill Belichick. So, like, everybody runs their offense the same way or defense the same way. It's the same thing, right? Ideology. How do you pierce a new ecosystem where none of these people ever existed to get a whole new set of questions, Yep.
No, 100%. And that's why I joined, new group that I'm in, and it's been good, but it's also, I've found out that it's not really the group that I was looking for. It's more syndication and stuff that, that's not how I'm running my business right now. But anyways, I want to ask you, I know you're an operations person, and it seems that, like, no one talks about that, right? And we're kind of getting off topic a little bit, but this is back to kind of being an echo chamber and everyone doing the same thing. And every mastermind I've been to, well, for the most part, how often, or gurus that talk and classes, how often are operations really discussed? And really, operations, if you're holding on to the deal or you're selling, either way, operations takes over. The most important part is finding the deal, and then the next important piece is operations, and that's what comes in, for the life of the deal, and that can either make or break a good or a bad deal.
Yeah, and I think some of it comes from like too many people like, oh, well, we're in this room, so we all have it figured out. And like someone does bring up operations, everyone feels like the room's being drugged down. And you're in a group full of entrepreneurs that like they all want to think to the next level, the high level. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And it's like, yeah, but some of it is you need to dial in your operations. You need to be set up. You need to have a team in place. And I don't know that the nitty gritty of like, hey, this is how we evict people in Maryland is like a topic that needs to be discussed. But hey, like I have an operations manager. What does your chain of command look like? Or what does your SOPs look like to have that discussion? Like I know a hot topic in every single mastermind right now is hiring an executive assistant. And I know I talked to you about it, about finding a playbook and, who has it, who doesn't. And it's like, I know we've sat in our rooms last time in Dallas. Everybody was like, oh yeah, just hire an EA. Okay. Hire an assistant. And then like, we never really discussed like, what does the assistant do for you? And I think that's one thing that we changed for this event coming up is finding the right speakers to come and talk about these exact topics, because I think your role, whether you're a one-man band or you have a massive organization, your role at the top is to lead everybody that you have inside your organization. And you could have literally yourself, right? Like, let's just say it's John Farling LLC, and he's got to lead himself. Well, he needs a system and process to say, how's he going to go do lock audits? And I think that's the operational stuff that does get discussed. And, I'm going to make a note for that for our next one coming up that, if there's a chance, we should dive deeper into operational type things. I just think it always remains high level because we're all leaders. And I know one thing that we're bringing up, not only about hiring executive assistants and finding the right speaker on that, we've also found a speaker on another common topic. And I'd be interested in your thought. I'm going to fire a question back with a question, is leadership. A lot of the times leadership comes up, and we went out and found one of the best leadership speakers for our upcoming event, Dan Bresler. He's in the FDNY. He's a combat Marine. He served time in this country at the highest of levels, and he's coming in to talk about leadership under fire. And I just always find it interesting, and it's kind of related to your topic of like how many entrepreneurs struggle with this word leadership and what it means to you. I mean, have you noticed that in like not only our group, but other groups that people are striving to learn more about leadership?
Yeah. Well, and you broke up a little bit there. And I want to bring up too, it's a good question. You look at where we all came from, right? A lot of us probably left a W-2, or maybe we're straight out of high school, college, and we just action takers and figure things out. Not necessarily born leaders, right? We're not born CEOs. So a lot of us are, it's like, okay, I got to buy a single family rental house. I want to make some extra cash flow here. And then you start stacking, and then hopefully you start building systems and procedures and start developing yourself into a leader. But a lot of times that's not the case. And again, that goes back to operations where it's missed. And like what you said, we're thinking about big picture and we want to keep growing. We want to keep finding deals. And that's kind of what we're focused on. I think a lot of times the operations and the leadership kind of goes to the wayside. And I think for you and I think we've probably, I don't know, we've discussed it, but I think we've probably been on the same page with that for a while. Is we look at the overall picture of we got to grow ourselves as leaders and also grow our operations too. And I don't think that's discussed a lot.
Yeah. And no, it's just a hard topic to work on because it's a non-income producing item in a lot of people's minds. Right. Yep. And it's like, well, you can't buy, like a lot of guys we know, they buy just say $500,000 to $1.5 million facilities. And they buy these assets and it's like, well, I want to get to the next level. I want to buy a 40,000 square foot asset that's worth $2.5 million. Okay. But dude, like, if you don't have that system in place to get to that next level, or that leadership quality to say, I need to lead a team to do this, or systems and processes, you're never going to get there. And again, it goes back to being in a mastermind of like, you're surrounded by people that have figured some of this out. But also people that are going to challenge you, and they can see it's way easier to figure out other people's problems than it is your own sometimes. But when you're figuring out other people's problems, you're teaching. And then when you're teaching, you're unfucking yourself at the same time. So that being said, yeah, like I think that is an important topic that needs to be covered more often. And sure, a lot of people, I know someone wanted to join our mastermind and he passed. He's like, well, you guys aren't in any masterminds, not working on yourself. And it's like, well, yeah, I get it. But like yourself is important, but your operations is equally as important. And it's something that needs to live in unison. And sometimes for me, it's a seesaw effect. Some days I want to work on myself. Other days I want to work on my business. I'm in a cycle of business right now. And I'm sure on the other side of this, probably come in 24, early 25, I'll be back onto life stuff and working on myself and seesawing as I have time and as I see fit for our business as we go forward. And I think it's all where you are in your life cycle of your investing career, of what you want to work on and, what relates to you.
Yep. Well, and working on yourself, it's not as sexy too, right? It's, I think Tony Robbins, like Ed Milet, guys like that. And I think for myself, I think a lot of that comes from podcasts and books. I don't know we get some of that in masterminds and groups that I know that we've both been a part of, but for me, I like working on that by myself. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. And my guess is there's probably a lot of people out there that are like, you know what, as far as real estate investing, I don't need a group or community. I want to do everything by myself and learn on my own. And I think I've said it before is once I joined a mastermind and got some type of coaching, my business exploded. Just being around, just learning from others and being around people that are doing more, like it just motivates you and you learn from them. And for me, I just copy other people, right? Like I may do some tweaks on my own, but I just copy what others are doing, steal from them kind of, and hopefully it works out. If not, you pivot.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't have anything else on that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
What else you want to talk about? You want to talk about the event before we go?
Yeah, we could talk about the event. I mean, it's upcoming. It's going to be in Charleston, South Carolina, September 30th to October 2nd. I think we have not done our invites yet. We do have a few open spots. We'll be reaching out to some individuals. If you're interested, please reach out. I mean, it's people that have all been handpicked to be a part of our group, and they've accepted the invitation. And this time, so usually we do a combination of mastermind and presentations. We'll have John Lindsay and Matt Rosendale coming in talking about the status of what they see in the self-storage market. Just an update. They've given 2 presentations now, so it's just interesting to see the trend line. So we have them coming back. We have Jason Bresler coming in talking about leadership under fire. Like you said, he's FDNY and a combat Marine, served for over 20 years, coming in talking about mental focus, being a leader, how to communicate your messages. So I'm really excited for that. That'll be mixed in with some mastermind sessions. And then we also have a special Zoom call prior to the event. You can go ahead and share that one if you'd like.
Yeah. And before I forget, this isn't all self-storage. While probably 70-ish% of the people in our mastermind are in self-storage, it's not the only asset class. In fact, I think and I was telling someone the other day, I think it's just myself and maybe 2 others are the only ones that are only in self-storage. But we talk about all asset classes. Bringing John Lindsay in is, he's great for the room too. He's a self-storage guy, and he talks about the market, which probably correlates to most commercial products right now. But he's good for the room too, and he's a good guy to be around. So that's why we keep having him back. But it is not self-storage focused, just FYI. The Thursday before our event, we were having a Zoom call with Dan Martell. He's coming on, and I believe speaking about buy back your time. And we'll see how that goes. So yeah, it's a private call for an hour. He's coming in and going to talk to us.
Yeah. So I guess we should probably tell our group members before this podcast get released.
No, they'll know before. I think this doesn't release for another 2 or 3 weeks. So
good. Because we just secured that. So that's super exciting. I mean, that book right there, Who Not How, those 2 books right there, I read them back to back. 10X is greater than 2X. And Buy Back Your Time. I read them back to back, 2 different authors. One's Dan Martell and one's Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And those 2 books back to back have completely changed the trajectory of our business and how I do things and how I look at things. Actually, John and I, right before we hopped on this podcast, were on a conversation with our executive assistant, Mary, who I hired in the past few weeks. And she's hire number 2 over the past 2 months, but I think she's going to be around for a while. And she's setting up all the stuff for the event. She's handling everything. It is such a massive relief rather than me and John trying to do it. And that's some of the stresses of running a mastermind. But again, if we remember and keep our eye on the prize, and it's actually kind of fun having Mary set up a lot of this stuff, because it's like, well, I'm just an attendee like everybody else, and I want to extract the same value that everybody else is getting. I'm super excited for the call with Dan Martell. I'm excited to see Jason in person and hearing him speak. He comes highly, highly recommended from a lot of my fire department buddies. So I'm super excited for all that. And it should be a really interesting event. And I look forward to what it all brings. When John and I talked about creating a mastermind, it was like everything we just kind of vented on is like, here's all the issues with all the masterminds. Well, how are we going to do it different? Well, this is how we're going to do it different. We're going to keep it open to all asset classes, not just one asset class. We're going to bring in speakers and spend the money that it takes to bring in the right people to come speak to our groups and not be shy about it, right? Like, we're going to make sure people are getting value on a monthly basis. And if that value is not having a Zoom call that month because there's nothing to talk about, well, your time is way more being respected than saying, oh, well, we have to do a Zoom call because we said we have one set up. So we're just looking at trying to do it the way we see fit and the way that we would want to be a part of something. So I'm excited to see where this thing goes.
Yeah, well said. I don't think I have anything to add there. Man, unless you got anything else, I appreciate you coming on. This was good. Hopefully the audio worked itself out, but yeah, man, appreciate you coming on. You got anything else before we go?
No, I'm just overdoing my $50 million of asset challenge over at CRE-syndicate.com. If you guys want to check it out, or if you're afraid to join a mastermind and you want to see what monthly calls are like and learn about commercial real estate, check out CRE-syndicate.com. I'm on there all the time. John's even in the group. Oh, I can get him to comment every once in a while. Don't be shy. And yeah, man, that's it. I'm excited to see where life goes.
Yeah, you got that group going on, and you got a podcast. What's the name of your podcast again?
Real Estate Reserve Podcast. And we like to bring in guests that are not gurus and that are actually doing deals. It's been really fun. I enjoy it. This is a part of our masterminding too, and working out your problems, talking to a bunch of different people all across the country. So realestatereservepodcast.com. You can check that out too. And you guys know where to find me. Everybody knows where to find me. I'm easy to track down on the internet. Just Google my name. I'm out there.
Yep. Not hard to find. Awesome, man. Well, again, appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.